Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, the U.S. forces are evacuating from Libya as Haftar seeks military control. Did you know we had forces in Libya right now? That's one of the things, that so much of us don't seem to realize. As we shared before, in 2017, the United States had military forces in 90% of the countries in the world. That's just mind-blowing. And no wonder the world views the U.S. as it does in so many cases. What are we doing in 90% of the countries of the world militarily? Has the Roman Empire ever stopped? Has it just morphed and changed form throughout time? That's a big question. So fighting is raging between the UN-backed Tripoli government and the self-styled Libyan National Army. Don't you love how all these armies always have the same sort of terms, the way they name themselves? People's Army, Libyan National Army. Well, the Libyan National Army is led by Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar, and he's the leading military figure from the east. And as we had said before, forces under his control from the eastern side of Libya have been heading towards Tripoli to take the Libyan capital and to basically put in place a new government. The UN-backed government that is there is the one that they are fighting, and Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar is basically backed by the Russians and the Chinese. So when you look at it, this is a battle going on between the forces of the UN slash US slash, we could use many different terms, including the DS, or the word that begins with an I and ends with an I, or the other one that begins with the CA and ends with an L. You know what I mean. It has to do with banking. And anyway, it's between that and the alternative that is developing, which is led by China and Russia. And the BRICS nations minus the B, as Brazil, as we had talked about, talk of Brazil and Colombia joining NATO. So everything is gearing up right now. It's really a wild, crazy thing that we are watching on so many fronts right now. And it's happening at a maddening pace, a very, very fast pace, things going on. And so Haftar is seeking to capture the capital and to seize military control of the whole country before UN-sponsored talks due to start next week that were designed to map out a path to fresh elections. And this is out of The Guardian, which is a UK paper. Footage on social media showed two fast U.S. Navy transport craft maneuvering off a beach in Janjawar in Tripoli's western suburbs, sending plumes of spray as American forces were ferried from the shore. The evacuation came after 3 days of fighting on the southern outskirts of the city as Haftar's forces continued their assault and expelled militias aligned with the UN-backed government of National Accord, the GNA. In an escalation at the weekend, both sides launched airstrikes, with Tripoli residents reporting indiscriminate artillery fire hitting homes across the capital. The clashes on Saturday alone resulted in 7 deaths, 55 people being wounded, according to a spokesperson for a field hospital in Tripoli. And calls for sanctions were taken against Haftar were heard for the first time, including from a former UK ambassador to Libya, Peter Millet. Federica Mogherini, the EU Foreign Affairs Chief, will try to organize a united front at a meeting of the EU General Affairs Council on Monday. Tensions between Rome and Paris over the extent of Emmanuel Macron's past support for Haftar have been simmering for months. And so that's a very, very interesting thing to look at as well. Rome and Paris, Italy and France, they haven't seen eye to eye lately. On many, many different levels. And so the GNA Prime Minister, Fayez al-Sarraj, who accused Haftar of treachery, has also protested to the French ambassador to Libya, Beatrice du Helin, about French support for Haftar. On Saturday, Macron spoke to Antonio Guterres, The UN Secretary General and the LSA insisted he was calling for restraint on all sides. So this evacuation is the first public acknowledgement that the U.S. had forces in Libya in the first place. The U.S. Africa Command saying in a statement, due to increased unrest in Libya, a contingent of U.S. forces supporting the U.S. Africa Command temporarily relocated from the country in response to security conditions on the ground. The U.S. gave no details of the size of the force or its mission, but said it might be sent back later. We will continue to monitor conditions on the ground to assess the feasibility for a renewed U.S. military presence and as appropriate, it said. In the last 3 years, U.S. Special Forces have been deployed along with British and French elite units to fight Islamic State in Libya. The U.S. has launched more than a dozen sets of airstrikes against ISIS in the southern desert. And, there's those that believe that ISIS is not really real in the sense that it was a created thing, in order to create the conditions which allow going into so many different countries and taking control over natural resources. Create the problem, give the solution, and let that solution really be the thing that goes towards the final outcome that you wanted, which in the first place is, again, controlling natural resources. Now, some people believe that's the case. Everybody, but it has to form their own opinion for themselves by, again, analyzing the data, looking at all sources, and weighing what the left brain says with what the heart and the intuition says. And so this gives you an idea. You look at current areas of control, as you can see here. And so there's always a bigger picture going on, always chess games going on. And things are most definitely escalating. Most definitely escalating. And over here, we see here, at the request of the Libyan government of national accord, the United States military conducted precision strikes in Sirte, Libya, to enable the advance of forces seeking to remove ISIS from its primary stronghold in Libya, as we see a Reaper drone. And, everybody, again, has their own opinion on this. But, like it or not, the U.S. is in so many countries around the world. And, as this situation deteriorates, we're going to keep a strong eye on this. Libyan strongman Haftar claims airstrike on Tripoli. Crisis is escalating. U.S. announces its evacuated forces again. And then when we look over here, fighting near Tripoli leaves 21 dead. And again, indiscriminate bombing. Again, just average civilians. That's who's paying the price for this. Always this war over the resources that once again just kills the average people. And of course, people that are in desperate circumstances will tend to do desperate things. And, you get these kids who want to provide for their families, and they're in a place where, the economy is horrible, and often it's manipulated to be that way because of the desire to control and the desire to basically have your hands all over the natural resources. And whether that's oil or gold or any other items either, it doesn't really matter. Although right now we definitely see a concerted drive to control the oil. And as we said before, the machines of war, they use oil. And so these desperate kids that want to help out their families, sometimes they'll just join these groups, in order to provide food for their families and think they're doing something good. And whether these groups are benevolent or malignant, often, the latter is the case. And so here again is just another humanitarian crisis building. So Libya's GNA forces announced counter-offensive to defend Tripoli as well. So the army of Tripoli-based government vows to reclaim all the areas seized by forces loyal to renegade General Khalifa Haftar. As we see, Mohamed Guanuno, There you go. Spokesperson of GNA forces announcing the counter-offensive. And, World War II, there were some incredible battles between, the German panzers and the Sherman tanks going through Libya and going through northern Africa. Some amazing battles between Rommel and Patton. And, here we go again with the potential for a conflict. And again, this is a key area, as we were talking about, as this had, I believe, the ninth most proven oil reserves of any country. So there's a lot of untapped resources here, and that's a big part of what's going on. So as always, we will keep an eye on this, my friends. As always, thank you for your support. Thumbs up, support the channel. Please do subscribe. Click the bell, get all notifications, both on the first channel and also Evolutionary Energy Arts 2. And share as we wake up everybody to what's going on around the world. And let's try to effect positive change as best we could in any way we could. God bless, my friends. Stay safe, stay prepared. Namaste.